Let's find out what's happening in the commodity space this morning. Manisha Gupta, commodities editor, as always, joins in for a quick roundup of all the action there. Hi, Manisha, what's up?
Well, hi. After 2% decline in the crude oil prices overnight, we are trading quite flat. So there is no follow-through selling in the Asian markets right now. Also, the investors are optimistic on the US and China talks, which are slated for the end of this month. Remember, on 5th of Feb, China breaks for the New Year holidays for a week and more. So there is an expectation that before China breaks for holidays, we will hear something positive in sense of US and China trade talks there. So that perhaps is a reason you have seen some support come in. Apart from that, there is a bit of a weakness in US dollar, which has been supportive as well. The metal prices in Shanghai also have opened on a slightly firmer note. It is about value buying. Remember, most analysts will tell you that we perhaps have made a bottom in case of metal prices. Also, there has been a very sharp decline in the inventories. So whether it is about the lower stocks, on-warrant stocks, or the kind of deficit that metals like zinc, copper, nickel are looking at in the first quarter of 2019, that really seems to be weaving its way into the prices right now.
Okay.
All right, Manisha, thanks a lot for putting those commodity cues on table. Like Sonia pointed, the pre-open has settled slightly higher, just about 8 points. Advanced decline at about 1.66 to 1. The Bank Nifty, a day ahead of weekly options expiry, normally makes a bit of a move. Will be interesting to see. 27,493 is what you have. Let's take the 9-10 calls then. Let's start with Ashwini. Ashwini?
See, like I gave you the boundaries, only if we get to those boundaries, there's a trade. Otherwise, it looks like a pretty flat sort of a day.
Okay, so 9-10 call?
See, autos continue to move on the downside. So M&M is a sell with a stop of 714, target of 690.
Okay. So Darshan, any ideas coming to mind? 9-10?
Well, yes, Bajaj Finance is a buying opportunity. It's on the verge of a breakout on the upside. 25.80 could be a stop and 26.70 is a target. But wait for 10 minutes for markets to stabilize before taking any trade.
Okay, that's some sane advice. Mitesh, what about you? At 9-10, what would your top call be?
Yeah, I would choose a buy on Dr. Reddy's with a stop below 26.20 for targets close to about 2700.
Okay, fair enough. Let's just discuss a couple of more stocks before we move on and get some more corporate interviews. Yes Bank is opening higher by about 1.2%, and Bharti Airtel is the other one, opening slightly higher. ITC comes out with numbers today. Sudarshan, any thoughts on the stock? It's looked like it's breaking out, but then it flatters to deceive, and it's done that so many times. At 290, what's the call on the stock?
Yeah, it's behaving like the Nifty, isn't it? It looks like it's breaking out and doesn't. Well, yesterday we had this sharp dip in ITC, which was bought into. And then a 4-day correction has already come in place. So, irrespective of numbers, ITC is probably ready for a short-term up move.
Okay, ITC is ready for a short-term up move. Let's see which way the numbers head. For now, a couple of more stocks. Havels is seeing some follow-on buying. But we have 3.5 minutes to go. So let's do one thing. Let's get a quick comment from some corporates. We heard Pawan Munjal earlier, and now JSW Group Sajjan Jindal is also betting big on electric vehicles. Let's listen in to what he told Shireen in Davos.
There's a lot of talk around you tying up with Chinese manufacturers, etc.
No,
what's the story?
No. Chinese, we looked at, because China is very big on EV, and, Tesla kind of stuff cannot work in India. It's too expensive, it's too high tech. So Chinese EV is a very good model for India. So we looked at all those cars, and most of every Chinese company wanted to tie up with us. But we are not looking at Chinese, because to sell a Chinese product in India is going to be a very difficult thing. And last coming from a JSW saddle. So therefore we did not, so we are looking at a German concept, and technology would come from Germany and or Austria, and that we would be doing it 100% JSW.
And manufacturing in India?
Of course, 100%.
Okay. So what is going to be the positioning of this electric vehicle, and when do we actually see it being commercialized? Because, even companies like Mahindra, who've had the first mover advantage, continue to struggle in the Indian market.
No, I think there is still time for the electric vehicle to come into India, and because we don't have the infrastructure, still the technology is still developing. Because when you come with the product, it must match the IC engine technology. You know, it must have that same acceleration. It must
and range.
and range. Yeah. So that's why. So we believe that in 2 to 3 years, the batteries will become very cheap, and the range will increase a lot. And I don't really worry about the infrastructure, because India, I always believe that India is a very, very different kind of a country, where the infrastructure will come as the product gets launched. For example, the aircrafts came before the airports were built in India, in the sense that, you know, and today we see Bombay, we are roaming around for half an hour congestion. So now new airport is being expedited, and new highways are being built. So that would happen.
So this is a serious plan.
No, absolutely serious. It will happen.
How much money are you putting?
Money it's in excess of $1 billion.
Okay, that's Mr. Jindal from the sidelines of the World Economic Forum. Actually, all these metal stocks are very weak. Sudarshan, very quickly, I mean, on the contra side, would you look at selling any metals? At least yesterday, the trends were extremely fragile.
Yes, even today, metal should be on the lower side. So Hindalco and Vedanta are short selling opportunities. It's just that if the Nifty decides to go up, short selling should be done carefully, but metals remain weak.
Okay, about 46 seconds left for markets to open. Let's look at some more stocks, because you know, it could be about a lot of broader market stocks. ICICI Pru, of course, post earnings. Now it's going to open 4% gap down. That could be the interesting stock to watch out for, because normally what you've seen post earnings is that first move, after that if it doesn't get followed through, then there's a move on the other side. You never know with a stock like ICICI Pru, perhaps is that how it's going to pan out, or is this going to be a bit of a trending move? But it's going to be the stock of the first hour for sure. ICICI Prudential, considering that it's rallied a bit over the last few days, but for now struggling a bit around the 330 mark. Let's now look at the opening rates. The market's opening flat, as was the indication with the pre-opening, just about 5 points higher on the Nifty. Now about 3 points, 2 points now on the Nifty. The Bank Nifty is already in the red, down about 5 points. In terms of stocks, Infosys is down about 1%. A bit of a rupee strength playing out today. Tech Mahindra is down a bit. Infosys, has said, down a bit. Sun Pharma is down a bit, not by a lot actually. Tata Motors down 0.5%. Tech Mahindra down about 0.25%. The Nifty is absolutely flat. The top Nifty gainer right now is Bharti Infratel, ahead of numbers, is up about 1%. There's Wipro, which is up about 1% as well. Indiabulls Housing is up about 1%. Yes Bank is up about 1% less than that. Actually, haven't seen this kind of screen. There's nothing which has moved more than 1% on either side. The top loser is Infosys, 0.8%. The top gainer is Wipro, up about 1%. Now a couple of other stocks joining in. Hindustan Unilever is up a bit. Asian Paints, it's between yesterday's high and low. The stock up about 0.5%. Already had a rally, of course. Now the market's down a bit, down about 6 points at 10,915 on the Nifty, and about 27,444 is what you have on the Bank Nifty. The drag is coming via Infosys and Mahindra & Mahindra. Mahindra & Mahindra, in fact, is now the top loser, down about 1%.
Okay, well, similar case for the mid-caps, Anuj. Absolutely flat. The market breadth is split right down the middle, so pretty directionless, you'd have to say. The stock of the moment on the downside is definitely Prabhat Dairy. So after that big fall yesterday, the market is punishing it some more. Another 7% knockdown on Prabhat Dairy. Big volumes over there. ICICI Pru is also down 3% post its numbers, which were weak. So stock is down and volumes are picking up. TVS Motor is under a bit of pressure. Valuations look very expensive, for this stock. So despite decent set of numbers, there's some profit taking that the company is seeing right now. And apart from that, you have on the upside a couple of these stocks that have one order. So Inox Wind, VA Tech Vabag, Valchand Nagar, all trading in the green on the back of order wins. Inox Wind is now up almost about 2.5%. Mindtree and Coffee Day are both in the green on that impending deal. Perhaps VG Siddhartha selling his stake. So Mindtree is up about 1.5%. Coffee Day up 3%. Havels is also seeing some follow-on buying this morning after the good set of numbers that it came out with yesterday. So now the mid-cap index is picking up a bit of pace, up about 0.2%. Couple of more stocks, that you'd want to perhaps look at.
I want to point out both Den and Hathway, because approvals have come through for the deal with Reliance Industries. Both those stocks are a little excited, 2 to 3% on the upside over there. Mindtree, of course, as Sonia pointed out, it's still 2% on the higher side. Bandhan Bank was getting sold very heavily yesterday towards close. Today, it's starting off on the positive side of the screen at least. In terms of small cap results, I mean, if you're interested in small caps and a company like Cupid, for instance, bad numbers, stock is getting sort of sold off aggressively, 8% down over there. TVS Motors is cooling off after yesterday's good run. It's down about 1.5% at least for the time being. But I guess as of now, more gainers than losers, and absolutely flat on the index, Anuj. So how do you look at the opening?
No, I think it's a decent opening. I think the Bank Nifty is showing early signs, perhaps, of seeing buying. Because it opened at a very interesting pivot level and has seen some support over there. So that's quite interesting for me. I think ICICI Prudential for me would really be the stock to watch because it straight away opened gap down, and from that point there's just been no follow through. In fact, the opening is a low for ICICI Prudential, 330. So that for me becomes the reference point to watch. Let's see how things move. On the other hand, of course, HDFC Life is showing a bit of a green, but just early morning, I think that could be perhaps one trade. But Ashwini, your thoughts on market opening, and is there a trade that you're taking here?
See, I think the Bank Nifty looks like it's planning to have some sort of an upside because the low was almost very close to yesterday's low. So my sense is that today the banks could lead on the upside. And for the moment, I think large banks like ICICI Bank, State Bank, etc., they look like they could have upside. So stay with banks and look for smaller profits. But I don't think we are going to break down below yesterday's low.
Okay, well, stocks like Wipro hitting fresh 52-week highs. So Wipro has clearly broken out of a range. If you pull up a 3-month or 6-month chart, it's at a 52-week high, looking pretty good. Yes Bank, ahead of its numbers, is up almost 1.5%. In fact, it's the biggest gainer right now. Sudarshan, any thoughts on the market opening? Opening is flat, but any individual names that catch your eye?
No, the opening itself is okay in the sense it's not down. And it's holding well above 10,850. So my view is that if we cross 10,940 in the cash Nifty, that tells us that buying is coming in at different levels and an intraday trade on the long side is justified. So that's very close. Wipro is a buy and Yes Bank is an avoid.
Okay, some bit of negative news once again on Jet Airways, where I think SBI has written. Etihad, of course, is not willing to go over 150 per share for infusion in Jet Airways. And, I think SBI wants an exemption from open offer. Now, it's unwilling to release 35 million as well. That's the story that Lata is breaking. So, once again, a bit of a negative news flow surrounding Jet Airways. Obviously, nobody would pay 271 or to the current price. But, Lata, you have the story.
Well, this is all the info I have that the SBI chairman is meeting the SEBI chairman because they're not able to get a better deal. It appears that Etihad is refusing to give anything more than 150, which militates against the substantial acquisition of shares and takeovers code. If you go by the high-low of the last 6 months, it should have been 262 rupees. But it's 150, and that's the offer, take it or leave it. They also want, Jet Airways shares to be pledged. Only then they will be releasing this $45 million. So clearly they want Naresh Goyal and related parties to not have any substantial say in it.
Okay, Lata, we'll let you go on that note.
I think Lata is catching a flight. So
I wonder which one.
Would be interesting to find out whether it's a jet flight or not, right?
But anyway, thanks a lot, Lata, for joining us. Well, that's the market opening. It's looking like it's a good opening actually, and 10,938 now. The Bank Nifty in particular looking quite interesting. Mitesh, any interesting stock idea for you?
So I think once again we are close to the upper end of the range, so waiting for that breakout to take place. But yes, the Bank Nifty intraday chart is interesting. Getting past 27,600 should add 150-200 points on the upside. So that's the level which I'm watching. But that about, I think Wipro was, as I had made a disclaimer earlier, I think I have interest over there. Wipro is a good stock. Apart from that, Hexaware is also breaking out. That should see some continuation if it starts trading above levels of 335, 336. And once that happens, the stock can head towards 350 zones.
Okay. By the way, just must point out that on Mindtree, it's happened so many times. So, you just want to really wait for this deal to fructify. because again, otherwise there's a bit of a risk of getting caught. Like you saw last time as well, there was this news, and then the stock had a rally, and then after that fell again. So let's just keep that at the back of our mind. Let's thank our technical experts on that note. We'll of course come back to you at around 10 a.m. Ratnesh Kumar is with us now, MD and CEO of BOBCAPS. Ratnesh, good morning. Thanks a lot for joining us. It's been quite, a narrow market over the last, 1 month or so, led mainly by Reliance, Infosys, to a certain extent Kotak, and the market breadth has been weak. Your thoughts?
I think this range-bound market is likely to continue for the next 3-4 months, simply because of the events which are there on the horizon. And a good thing is that you have domestic flows which are sustaining, that is keeping the market steady. And but however, I think next 3 to 4 months, this range-bound market activity at the index level is quite likely to continue.
Okay, range-bound activity will continue. By the way, stocks like ICICI Pru are sinking hard now post their numbers. So that stock is in fact down 5.5%, and volumes are also picking up. This market is definitely in a mood to punish weak earnings. But Ratnesh, hi, good morning. The one theme that has at least so far showcased an up move is the consumption space, whether it's Asian Paints, Havels, TVS Motor, etc., all reporting good numbers. Any sub-segments that you like within this theme?
I think in consumption, like wherever the market is in the uncertain phase, you begin to see the consumption stocks doing well. On the core business side, clearly, the consumption sector is coming out of the disruptions which were there about 18 months back, and it has come back to some sort of a normal, steady growth trajectory. Within consumption, I think it may not be part of consumption, but I think housing is something which I'm looking at as a sustainable growth area for the next 2 to 3 years, if not more. And that is, and all the sort of subsegments related to housing or house building, I think those are the segments to look at for a secular growth opportunity, from here on.
Okay. By the way, the metal side of the market is quite interesting because today there is buying. Yesterday there was a lot of selling on a lot of steel stocks. Though yesterday Chinese prices were higher. Today it's the reverse. The Chinese prices are slightly lower, I think, going by reports this morning. But for us, the space is working well. Hindalco, JSW Steel, Vedanta, Tata Steel, all of these names. Ratnesh, good morning. Since I was just pointing out prices today, what is your general sense on commodities like metals? And, would they at all feature in the portfolio at the moment?
I would be negative at this point on the global commodities, simply because, globally you are having a slowdown in growth in China. You have trade disruptions. And generally, commodities do better, when you have robust global growth in addition to other parameters in terms of demand supply. So at this point in time, I think in India, we are better off focused on the domestic non-commodity sectors rather than the global commodities.
Okay, Shree Cement is moving up now. I think, like Nigel was pointing out, the worst of the numbers were priced in the stock, and yesterday the fact that volume growth was quite okay and the markets latched on to that. Z Entertainment is the other stock where you're seeing some buying, and Yes Bank, of course, also seeing some bit of buying interest. Anything in the mid-cap IT space that you like, Ratnesh, at current levels?
Yeah, we like mid-cap IT, because of the fact that you will have in times of uncertainty, in terms of news flow, event calendar that you have, you could have periodic weakness in flows and currency. And I think as a global sector, at this point in time, IT in general and within that mid-cap IT is a more preferred area than global commodities.
So when you talk about IT, Ratnesh, I mean, yesterday we were speaking with Sudhir Napte of Offshore Insights, where he did mention to us that their survey indicates that client spends are going to reduce. They're either going to be flattish or negative in the initial part of the year. There are some concerns with the talent crunch, etc. Would all of that not make you a bit cautious on the IT sector?
So you have the IT sector position as a steady growth sector naturally here on. So where it is a place to be is that over the next 6 months, naturally you will have fair bits of back and forth in terms of news flow, macro, political, and within that, what you are likely to see is the segment. Naturally, the headwinds that you pointed out are there, but within that, they are able to grow at 10-15%. And with that being there, I think the stocks are a good place to be as one of the preferred global plays in the Indian market as compared to trying to be playing the volatility in the commodities. So that is where I was coming from.
Okay, interesting moves in the market. The Nifty is again very flat, just about 9 to 10 points higher. There's some profit taking on Kotak Mahindra Bank that's finally set in. It's had several good days after the numbers came out. This morning's stock is a little somber. And Asian Paints also off the highs of the morning.
I think Mindtree really is where you're seeing a lot of profit taking, and that's what I think I was warning about. I've seen that previously as well. Till the time the deal happens, there is just too much information about this, this deal is happening and speculation. And we don't know at what price this deal will happen. So if you're chasing this deal, I think you're risking yourself. It's a bit of a deja vu. I think last month or thereabout, I think we had this move when the stock had a vertical run and sharper vertical decline. Just till the time the deal comes, just stay clear. Yeah.
Okay. Ratnesh, just want to get your views on the sort of banks that you are most optimistic on. I think the market consensus is the trio of Axis, ICICI Bank and State Bank of India. But, again, for like investors, is it still going to be more prudent to maybe stick with the likes of an HDFC Bank?
So I think what you will find is that, in my view, banks will lead the market from here on. Whatever be the trend in the near term, but on a on 2-3 month basis. But if you look 1 to 2 years, I'm looking at banks leading the market for a variety of reasons. I think business fundamentals for banks per se will keep on improving in terms of credit growth, etc. I think you've seen the worst in terms of the provisioning for NPLs, and that will keep coming down. And it is a large sector. So within the banks, as you asked, I would for the greater delta and coming from the low bottom, it is the corporate banks, corporate focused banks, which have naturally been hit very badly in terms of performance last couple of years. So the corporate banks should be the area of positive focus, in my opinion, at this stage, at the recovery stage for the banking sector.
Okay, the stock that's really taking a knock now is ICICI Pru, almost an 8% knockdown on that stock. And volume is also pretty high, almost over 18 lakh shares at the moment traded on ICICI Pru on the downside, post numbers. Ratnesh, we were discussing consumption on paints particularly, because Asian Paints management was so optimistic on demand and crude has fallen substantially. You think it makes sense to increase allocation here, if not to the large caps and any of the mid-cap paint companies?
Yeah, so I'm, as I mentioned earlier, I'm fundamentally, very positive on the secular growth trends that we are going to see in all the home building sectors. Be it paints, be it electrical equipments and cables, etc. So growth is going to be there, and wherever within those segments we can find companies which are good managed, well managed, financials are good, they're not over leveraged. I think investors can make money from the home building segment as a secular growth story from here.
Okay, so that's home building. What about, housing overall and housing financiers? Because that's been the big debate point in the market, Ratnesh.
So housing finance is naturally, some of them have got caught up in the whole NBFC situation, which has come up. So pure housing finance companies, growth opportunities are going to be there. Now, but the stocks there are more contingent on what sort of balance sheet management each individual NBFC is able to do. So yes, I think these next 3-4 months is probably likely to be challenging for them. But the growth opportunity is not going to go away. But as a product demand story, probably at this point in time, instead of housing finance, I would stick to the other segments that I mentioned. and come back to housing finance once the balance sheet side of the equation has been sorted for them.
Okay, we leave it at that. Ratnesh, thanks a lot for joining us and giving us your views. By the way, although the headline index is flat, the mid-caps are picking up now. 0.3% in the green, and the advance decline ratio is well in favour of advances. A lot of stocks. Nalco is up more than 2% odd. Shree Cements is picking up pace post its numbers. Jubilant Life is also higher. So the broader market is seeing a lot of action.
Yeah, broader market is seeing some action. And I think the sector of the day today is metals, Sonia. That I think could be the one where, yesterday you had a lot of selling in metals. I think stocks like Tata Steel, Nalco you mentioned, but the steel stocks like Tata Steel, JSW Steel, I think they're showing quite a bit of traction today. So just for the day, I think that really could be an interesting play.
Okay, well, since we are talking about a lot of these commodities, let's get you a rarely heard voice on television. Tata Steel's Managing Director and CEO TV Narendran tells Shireen Bhan on the sidelines of the World Economic Forum in Davos that he believes Bhushan Power was a good buy, although they may have overpaid for that asset. Listen in.
Well, demand has been quite okay. Prices have not been so great. That's been happening for the last couple of months. Since November, we've seen a softening of prices by about $100 in the international markets. I think it's driven a bit more by sentiment. There is a lot of concern about what's happening in China. Are things slower than people imagined? What is the impact of the trade actions? So we're seeing that play out in the international markets. Otherwise, fundamentally, if you look at demand growth, it's okay. I know the IMF has reduced the forecast for global economic growth, but not so material as to explain why the prices should drop by $100. And so when we look at 2019, we're looking at China growing at 6.5% or so, and India also being quite strong. So these are two major steel consuming countries. There is a bit of concern about the US, whether the second half of 2019 will not be so great for the US. So we need to see how that plays out. So demand side, globally, we expect it to be positive. China, the World Steel Association had forecasted zero demand growth for this year. Let's see how it plays out. If it is positive, that's on the upside. India, we expect about 6-7% growth in demand.
Okay. Since we're talking about India, let me ask you about the bets that you've made as far as the Indian market is concerned. And through the IBC process, you picked up Bhushan. Of course, questions on whether you paid too much or not, but I guess the jury's still out on that. But what's the outlook as far as that particular acquisition is concerned?
Well, I think we made a good buy. Of course, you can argue whether you paid a bit more or a bit less. It would have been worse if we bid a bit less and lost it. So I think we know how difficult it is to build a new greenfield site. It's taken us more than 10 years to get Kalinganagar started, and today Bhushan is producing more than what Kalinganagar has done. Kalinganagar is of course expanding. Bhushan is generating more EBITDA than Tata Steel Europe is doing. So if you look at it from that perspective, I think it was a good buy for us. Of course, the steel cycle goes up and down, the prices go up and down, but I think fundamentally it's a good asset. It's a well-built asset, good quality assets, and we think we can run it well. And I think this year we are 4.1, 4.2 levels of production compared to 3.5 last year. Next year we'll cross 5. So we're on track. So we're quite happy with what we bought.
Since you talked about Europe, let me ask you about progress as far as the ThyssenKrupp Tata Steel JV is concerned. You've put up a new management board in place. That announcement was made recently. What's the latest there as far as that business is concerned?
Yeah. Firstly, we call them the designated management board because till the JV is cleared by the Competition Commission, we can't proceed. But there are a number of actions that we need to take anyways, which doesn't conflict with what we are not allowed to do. So that's why we said we'll have the management team. So we have Gauss and Desai from Thyssen, and we have Hans and Sandeep from our side. So they're already working. They're meeting every 2 weeks and making the plan for that. As far as the Competition Commission is concerned, there is a conversation which is going on. They've asked us some questions on the packaging steels, on the electrical steels and automotive. I think we've responded. We are waiting for them now to come back to us. Basically, the timeline, officially the timeline was end March, which because in between they had stopped it for some time because they were still seeking some more information. Now, officially, the Commission has announced April, but nothing stops us from getting the clearance earlier. I mean, if the Commission wants to, they can give us a clearance earlier. So January is a critical month because we've given all the answers that they'd wanted. They need to come back to us and then we will take forward. So I think we are in a crucial stage. Things are going as per plan. And let's hope we can complete the formalities by the end of this financial year or as early as possible in the next financial year so that we can move on.
So as and when you do get the CCI approval, and you hope that it will be before the April timeline that is put in place, what next? Give me a sense of what the next steps will be.
So we have, like I said, the designated management board. We'll also announce a supervisory board, which is a board which is going to run the company. We have already what we call the clean teams, the teams who are working on it, who are not allowed to talk to anybody outside of the clean teams. So the preparation is already going on. We know exactly what to do. I think the teams know the plants and know the facilities very well. And Goss and Desai have been part of the Thyssen team for some time. So I think the teams will just get together and, chase the synergies that we've announced. So we've said we'll chase about 400 million euros of synergy, and that's going to be their first job.
Okay, that's the management of Tata Steel against that stunning backdrop at Davos. But you'll keep hearing more about that conversation through the course of the day.